I was watching the COD Mobile World Champs 2022 and found some interesting tips that you can add on to your gameplay immediately that'll help you improve and be a better team player. Let's start with Wolf's Peg's trigger discipline play. Having good trigger discipline is a very helpful way of catching enemies off guard. You need to have enough patience and self-control not to shoot the first enemy you see, because there's a chance that he's got a buddy nearby looking for a trade. With enough discipline, you can take out multiple enemies instead of one. It's a pretty effective tactic if your enemies miss a corner. Just make sure you don't make any noise that could potentially give away your position. Which brings us to the next tip, they check most if not all of their corners. Most pro players usually pre-aim every single corner when they push. Checking corners is a very important thing to do since it can help you with these. You can do this while walking and swiping left or right depending on which corner you want to clear first. Or you can slide peek and pre-aim if you think that there's a high chance that an enemy is waiting on a corner. Just make sure to have your crosshair placement ready at the perfect spot, since good crosshair placement means you won't have to swipe that much and you can just aim directly at your enemy. Try to fix your crosshair placement by aiming where you think the enemy will show up, aiming at around chest to head level so you can achieve a faster time to kill by hitting your target's chest and possibly the head thanks to your weapon's recoil. It's definitely not a hard task to do and it helps a lot if done correctly. Getting information is a helpful way to read your enemies and plan on how to counter them. But the question is, how do you do it? One of the best ways to get info from your enemies is by listening to audio cues such as gunshots, explosions, and footsteps, etc. It's a no-brainer to wear headphones, especially if you play FPS games competitively. So if you normally play with your device's standard speakers, you may have a hard time to locate enemies and gather info around the map. Another great way to get info from your enemies is to pre-aim angles and run. It's the same like fake peeking or jiggle peeking. You just basically try to peek a corner without fully committing to get info and go back to cover quickly. You can also try to peek and run away to trick your enemy, then re-peek if you're confident enough to take that gunfight. Take Tribe's Jez for example. He slide peeked Washi to gain info and he didn't re-peek right away because he knows that it's risky and Washi's still holding that angle. He instead used this info that Washi's hard scoping, so went for a jump peek to mess up his crosshair placement and finally got the kill. Also, here's some extra audio cues to help you get info about your enemy. Fun fact, you can see an enemy on the map if they spam their melee weapon. Off angles aren't usually used in COD Mobile, but pro players like to take it on a whole nother level. The right way to do it is to position yourself to an uncommon angle where players usually don't see or check. And this tactic is the best way for you to take down your enemies off guard. You can do it by proning, crouching, or any way that works for you. Just remember that don't do it every time you spawn since enemies might catch up and counter you. Try to be more creative on how you use it to your advantage and reposition every time you get a kill. Another tip that is really helpful I got from watching the tournament was the way players use their score streaks and operator skills throughout the match. You can also see that most pro players start to play a bit more passive while trying to rack up points from killing enemies and playing objectives, but it's definitely an effective way to get score streaks and unlock operator skills. That, and knowing when and where to use them, is the best way to make most out of it and can be a huge help for you and your team to take a step forward. Knowing the pace of the game and what type of situation you and your team is currently in can be really useful information on how you're going to use your utilities, score streaks, and operator skills. Everybody reaches a point where they tilt and get frustrated at a game. Playing on stage with thousands of people watching while it's being broadcasted live with almost $1 million on the line is not an easy thing to do, especially if you're going up against the top teams and players from all around the world. May it be in ranked or scrims, any amount of pressure and nervousness can sometimes get the best of us, but it mostly comes from no one but other than yourself. Lack of confidence, self-trust, and worrying too much about making a mistake are a few of the many reasons why you underperform, and that may lead to tilting. Becoming tilted and frustrated is bound to happen at some point in a high-pressure environment, especially if you're playing for long periods of time. The best way to keep your cool is to be ready to accept the outcome of your actions, learn from your past mistakes, and be better on the next one. What's the pro tip that you got from this year's World Champs? Let me know down in the comments below. If you want more tips from pros, you can watch this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.